Dear students, welcome to Tungal online classes. So in the last video we were discussing the animal tissues and we discussed epithelial tissue as well as muscular tissue, right? So there are three types of muscular tissues that we studied and the respective functions let us see now, and afterwards we will start with a new tissue, that is connective tissue. Now let us start with the functions of the muscular tissue. See here, muscular tissue, it does different types of functions. What are those functions? As you know, skeletal muscles are one kind of muscles which are responsible for the movement of the entire body itself, right? So if I am moving this hand, so the legs means, so it is because of these skeletal muscles itself, right? So that's why it is responsible for walking, it is responsible for running, jumping, etc. That is why, so this muscular tissue is responsible for all the movements of the body, right? So first one, so it is responsible for movements of body, right? So this is one. And second major function of this muscular tissue is, that is, so the movement of many number of fluids or the materials within the visceral organs especially. Visceral organs are those organs which are filled completely with the fluid, right? So in that, so the movement of the materials take place due to the contraction and relaxation of these muscles. So as we had seen, so there one type of muscles which are present in the small intestine or in intestine, and it is responsible for the movement of the food material through the intestine, right? So that's why, so movement of some materials in the movement of materials in visceral organs. So this is also one more function of what? So the muscular tissue. And the next one is very important one. What is that? So during the contraction of these muscles, what happens? Heat is produced there. Heat is produced during the contraction of muscles, right? That heat would help so as to regulate the body temperature, right? So it helps for body temperature, regulation of body temperature. So production of heat by contraction of muscles leads to regulation of body temperature. Is also one more function of these muscles. Next one is body balancing, right? Next one is body balance. There are many skeletal muscles, they bring about the coordination, so and that helps so is to maintain the body balance itself, right? So this is also one more function of what? So muscular tissue, right? These are some of the functions of muscular tissue. Let us start with a new tissue, that is connective tissue. So where it is, how it is, and its origin and the respective types as well as the respective functions, all these are the things that we study in detailed manner right now itself. Now connective tissue. Right? So as the name suggests, connective means it is also known as binding tissue. What it is also known as binding tissue. Binding tissue. Right? Why it is called as binding tissue is because it helps in bringing about the bondage, or it helps in bonding the neighboring tissues. Right? So that is why it is said to be as binding tissue. And connecting tissue it is also called as, why? Because it connects different types of tissues. Because of this reason it is called as connective tissue, or it is called as binding tissue, right? And this tissue is mainly originating from mesoderm. This tissue is originating from mesoderm. As you know, there are three germ layers are there. So ectoderm, mesoderm as well as endoderm. This tissue mainly originates from the mesoderm, right? So this is it is widely spread. It is widely spread tissue in our body. It is widely spread means entire body, maximum part of the body is then covered with this tissue, and hence it is available in our body abundantly. So hence this tissue is abundant and widely spread tissue in our body, right? It is also said to be as an abundant tissue it is. So widely spread and abundant tissue in a body, right? And so what are there inside this tissue is a very important aspect. See here, it consists of cells as well as fibers, right? What it consisting of? Cells as well as fibers. So cells as well as fibers together form what? The matrix. The matrix, or it is also called as ground substance. Ground substance, right? And these cells secrete the fluid that is present in the matrix itself, right? And different types of fibers are also secreted over here in this tissue. Means totally this connective tissue mainly made up of cells as well as fibers. The cells are not so much compactly arranged over here, so they are loosely arranged sometimes, and even between the cells there presence of the matrix is there. Matrix mainly consisting of what? The cells as well as fibers, right? So this kind of tissue, that is what? Connective tissue. And this matrix may be liquid in nature, sometimes it is gel-like in nature, sometimes it is solid in nature. So like this, matrix may be liquid in nature, or solid in nature, or it may be gel-like. So these three forms of the matrix is seen in this connective tissue itself, right? So and based on this matrix, nature of the matrix and the arrangement of the cells, right? Arrangement of the cells as well as the function. So these connective tissues, they have been classified into different types. So classification. Here connective tissue is classified into different types of tissues, that is connective tissues, based on the arrangement of cells, nature of matrix, and the fibers. So based on this, they have been classified into different types. So let us go through the classification of the connective tissue. Now we came to know what actually this connective tissue. So what it is also called as? It is called as binding tissue. Why? Because it helps in binding the different types of animal tissues in our body. It is a highly widespread and abundant tissue in our body, right? And it is originated from mesoderm. All these points to be noted very carefully. Now we'll classify this connective tissue into different types, and those types we'll discuss one by one. Yes, now the classification of connective tissue. So this connective tissue is broadly classified into three major parts or three major types. So what are those three major types? So let us see here. The first one is connective tissue proper, and second one is skeletal tissue, and third one is vascular tissue. So like this, there are three types. Mainly we will come across connective tissue proper. First one we will go through. This connective tissue proper is classified into different types. So what are those different types of connective tissue proper over here? So this is also said to be as binding tissue. It is also said to be as binding tissue. Here areolar tissue is there, and adipose tissue is there, and dense connective tissue is there, and reticular tissue is there. So like this, there are four types that we come across. One is areolar tissue, adipose tissue, dense connective tissue, as well as reticular tissue. In a dense connective tissue, there are two types that we come across. One is a dense regular connective tissue, and the second one is dense irregular connective tissue. So in dense regular connective tissue, there we come across two types. What are those two types of dense regular connective tissue? So see here, dense connective tissue. So here the matrix is little bit densely arranged, means the cells are densely arranged over here. In a dense regular connective tissue, there are two types. One is white fibrous tissue, and the second one is yellow elastic fibrous tissue, right? Here white fibrous tissue and yellow tissue, that is elastic tissue, yellow elastic tissue. So white fibrous tissue is again classified into cords and sheets. Here yellow also they have been classified into cords and sheets, right? Fibers mainly they consisting of cords and sheets they have been classified into. So and the next one is skeletal tissue. Here skeletal tissue is mainly consisting of cartilage and bone. Cartilage as well as bone are the two types of tissues that we come across. This cartilage is of three kinds. One is hyaline cartilage, second one is fibrous cartilage and calcified cartilage. In fibrous, once again we classify into white fibrous cartilage and yellow fibrous cartilage. In bone, there we come across two types. One is called as a spongy bone and second one is called as compact bone. So one is a spongy bone and the second one is compact bone. And vascular tissue, you know it better, there are two types that we come across. One is blood and second one is lymph. So this way, broadly we classify this connective tissue into mainly three types. One is connective tissue proper and second one is skeletal tissue and third one is vascular tissue. And connective tissue proper itself is converted into, means it is divided into areolar tissue, adipose, dense as well as reticular tissue. So dense connective tissue, it is dense regular as well as irregular, it is classified into. In dense regular, white fibrous as well as yellow fibrous tissue that we come across, and white as well as yellow fibers are once again classified into cords and sheets respectively. So in the same way, skeletal tissue, as the name suggests, that the skeletal system of the body. Sometimes the skeletal system of the body is made up of cartilaginous tissue and second one is bone tissue. That is why there are two types, one is cartilage as well as bone. In cartilage, hyaline, fibrous, calcified are the three kinds, and spongy bone as well as compact bone. So here white fibrous, yellow fibrous cartilage is divided in. This is how the broad classification of these connective tissues that takes place. And now we shall see, so what are the different types of connective tissues here. So connective tissue proper is divisible into loose connective tissue, right? So in that loose connective tissue we discuss, one is areolar tissue as well as adipose tissue, right? Loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue, and so next skeletal tissue as well as vascular tissue. This way also we can classify there. So let us start with the areolar tissue. First one is areolar tissue itself. Now we shall start with the loose connective tissue, that is areolar tissue. Loose connective tissue, that is areolar tissue. So how is this areolar tissue? Let us see now, right? So this areolar tissue, as the name suggests, so there are many number of gaps are there, or the spaces are available between the cells as well as fibers. Hence it is called as loose connective tissue. So areolar tissue, it is a type of loose connective tissue, where cells and fibers are loosely arranged over here. Cells and fibers are loosely arranged over here in this type of connective tissue. Okay, so next one, areolar tissue itself is so widely spread and abundant tissue in our body, and it is called as binding tissue. Why it is called as binding tissue? Because it helps in binding the different types of animal tissues, hence it is called as binding tissue, right? So this areolar tissue mainly consisting of fibers as well as the cells. It consisting of fibers as well as cells in their matrix itself, right? So mainly the cells are of different types as well as fibers are also different types. There are 3 different types of fibers it consisting of. There are 5 different types of cells it consisting of, right? All these together form this binding tissue, that is areolar tissue, which consisting of many number of intercellular spaces there. So let us see the diagram and explain it briefly. Okay. See, this is the structure of the areolar tissue, right? And such kind of areolar tissue, as I said, it is widely spread and highly abundant, and it fills the gaps between the organs and keep the organs at their respective places itself, right? So that is also very much useful. So by this connective tissue, that is areolar tissue, and hence it is said to be as packing tissue itself. So it is said to be as packing tissue. It is called as packing tissue. Okay. So such kind of packing tissue. So let us see what are the types of fibers and what are the types of cells that we come across here. So first of all, we will go through the types of fibers here. Fibers. What are the types of fibers that we come across here? One is white collagen fibers, and second one is yellow elastic fibers, and third one is reticular fibers. So there are 3 types of fibers that we come across. One is white collagen fibers, yellow elastic fibers, as well as reticular fibers. So like this, there are 3 kinds of fibers that we come across. Then what are the types of cells that we come across over here? So what are the 5 types of cells that we come across? As you know, one is adipocyte. One is adipocyte, and second one is macrophage, and third one is mast cell. Third one is mast cell, and fourth one is plasma cell, and fifth one is fibroblast. Right? So these are the 5 kinds of cells that we come across in this areolar tissue. So there are unique features are there of these fibers as well as these cells. So they are usually asked in the examination as, once again I can say that, so these questions are asked and as match the following type. These are the type of cells present in areolar tissue and their respective functions they may ask over here, right? So let us study all those types of fibers as well as types of cells now. First, the fibers. Here first one is white collagen fibers. So these are tough as well as very strong fibers which are arranged parallelly. They will be in a group, right? So and these fibers are very tough in nature and very strong in nature, and they are flexible when you drag themselves. That moment only they can be showing their flexibility. So these are strong, tough and flexible when stretched, right? So this kind of collagen fibers or the white fibers are made up of protein, called as collagen. Collagen. Hence the name white collagen fibers, or simply we call them as collagen fibers. Right? So this is one type. And second one is yellow elastic fibers. So as the name suggests, these are so yellow in color, and especially these are seen in so ear pinna, right? So there they are flexible in nature, they show elasticity. This kind of, these are fewer in number, they are very few in number and loosely arranged, and these are thicker than white ones. These are thicker than white colored fibers, and these are responsible for elasticity. Right? So they are responsible for elasticity. Abundant number of yellow fibers are present in ear pinna, hence it is flexible in nature. Right? So that's why elasticity, their function. And these are made up of a protein called as elastin. Elastin is the name of the protein these are made up of. These are yellow elastic fibers. Third one is reticular fibers. Now the reticular fibers, these are branch one. So these are very rare one, right? They are not abundant as if the white collagen fibers, right? So such kind of reticular fibers are invisible to our eyes. Why? Because the refractive index of these reticular fibers as well as the matrix is similar, hence they are invisible to our naked eyes. They are seen with the help of a specialized technology. Right? So these are branched in nature. These are branched in nature and made up of a protein reticulin. Right? They are made up of a protein called as reticulin. Right? So this is about reticular fibers. Like this, there are three types of fibers that we come across. They are white collagen fibers, yellow elastic fibers, and third one is reticular fibers. Okay? Different types of cells and their respective functions. So first one is, let us see, adipocytes. Adipocytes. These are specialized cells. These are specialized cells which store fat within themselves. Such kind of cells are said to be as the adipocytes. They act as the food reserves, right? So these adipocytes are fat-filled cells. As I said, match the following type of question is usually asked on this one. And second one is the macrophages. Very important one, macrophage. Right? Macrophages. These are specialized amoeba-like structure they have. Right? Specialized cells with amoeba-like structure means irregular shaped cell they have, and they are unicellular in nature. They are abundantly present in this areolar tissue, and they attack on the other microbes or the infective agents which try to enter into our body, and whenever they pass through this tissue, that moment, so they have been attacked by these macrophages. See here, they do not have any regular shape of the cell, irregular shaped cells they have. So these attack on the infective agents, right? So they are acting as the defensive system, right? So these act as defense system in our body, and these macrophages are also called as phagocytes. Phagocytes. They are acting as phagocytes, right? That is also a unique feature of these macrophages. And third one, what is the third one? Mast cells, very important one. Mast cells. These are the specialized oval cells. These are the specialized oval cells which produces histamine, heparin, and serotonin. So these are the chemical components which are secreted by these mast cells. So what is the major function of histamine? It acts as anticoagulant. It acts as anticoagulant. Anticoagulant means what? So these mast cells are being very close to the blood vessels. So and they secrete this histamine itself. Sorry, this is heparin is an anticoagulant. Right? Heparin is an anticoagulant. So it is being very nearer to the blood vessel, and the blood should not coagulate itself. It is avoided by the presence of this heparin itself. It is acting as anticoagulant. It avoids coagulation or clotting of the blood. Right? And the next one is histamine. Histamine, it acts as vasodilator. Right? Vasodilator means blood vessels dilate due to the action of this histamine. When it dilates, the blood pressure reduces. When the blood pressure reduces, that moment, the normal functions that goes on. When the blood pressure increases, see here, whenever you fear, immediately the blood pressure increases. So when blood pressure increases, afterwards, after 5 to 10 minutes, what happens? The blood pressure becomes normal. How it becomes normal? It is due to the action of this vasodilator. When the blood vessels dilate themselves, the space is more, the lumen is more inside the blood vessel. Say for example, this is the blood vessel. So inside which the blood is flowing. What happens? Immediately you fear itself. So when you fear, that moment the blood pressure that increases over here. So that what happens here? The dilation of this vessel takes place due to the action of histamine. When it dilates, the blood pressure that reduces. Right? So hence it is acting as vasodilator. Very important point to be noted over here. And serotonin, it is acting as vasoconstrictor. Right? So if vasodilation takes place, once again it should contract. So it should contract. When it should contract, the question arises. When there is a need of more blood pressure, so then constrictor takes place. This is one blood vessel, and immediately it constricts like this. So when it constricts, the blood pressure that passes through this vessel increases. Right? So to increase the blood pressure, there is a need of one more thing, that is serotonin. Heparin is acting as anticoagulant. Histamine is acting as vasodilator. These three important things you must remember. Next one is plasma cells. Very important cells. These are also fourth one, plasma cells. Plasma cells. These are the specialized cells which are produced from B lymphocytes. Okay, produced from B lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are a kind of WBCs, right? So from those WBCs, these plasma cells are produced over here, and these plasma cells especially, they produce antibodies. They produce antibodies. What is the action of antibodies? You know it better. It is also defensive in nature, means they attack on the infective agents or the microbes itself, right? So which attack on a body. So this is another kind of what? So cell. And the last cell is fibroblast. Very important one, this one is. Fibroblasts are the specialized branch, highly branched cells you are observing here. So this fibroblast which secretes the fibers, that is yellow fibers, white fibers, like this. So they secrete fibers, and those fibers which are arranged inside this areolar tissue, that is fibroblast. What it does? It secretes fibers. Right? It secretes fibers. Like this, these are 5 important cells which are seen in areolar tissue and does different types of functions. Hence, I had mentioned initially that this areolar tissue is performing different kinds of functions over here, right? So this is all about the areolar tissue. One is adipose tissue. What is this adipose tissue? So it is also kind of a modified loose connective tissue, right, which is characterized by the presence of a specialized cells which contain fat within themselves, right? So that kind of specialized cells which is consisted by this tissue, right? So that is adipose tissue. It is a kind of loose connective tissue. It is the kind of loose connective tissue. It is characterized by the presence of fat storing cells called as adipocytes. What they are known as adipocytes. So these are fat storing cells, these are called as. So these cells are mainly present inside the matrix of these cells, right? So whenever we go through the structure of these cells, these are oval in shape. Adipocytes are oval in shape, right? And such kind of cells which are present between the fibers, right? They are present between different fibers like white, yellow and reticular ones. So such kind of different fibers as well as these cells are present. So totally it forms the matrix of this tissue. Let us see the diagram of this adipose tissue now. See the diagram now. So these are nothing but adipocytes, right? So adipocytes, whenever you see at the center, there the fat is stored. Where the fat is stored at the center, hence the cytoplasm as well as nucleus is pushed towards the periphery, right? So this kind of adipocytes are the major characteristic features of this adipose tissue. Okay, along with this one, some other cells are also here as well as fibers are also here. White fibers are here and fibroblast is present and mast cells as well as the macrophages are also present. So along with these adipocytes in this tissue, right? So this is what? Adipose tissue, right? And this tissue usually it is occurring under the skin, right? It is occurring under the skin and it acts as the reserve of the food material, right? As you know, this is the tissue which is stored under the skin of the amphibians, especially frogs. So that fat is utilized by the body of the frogs during especially the sleeps, like. And this tissue is acting as the food reserve. As you know, it is stored under the skin, right? This tissue lies under the skin, and as you know, in frogs usually the stored food material is in the form of fat under the skin and it is deposited there itself, and that is nothing but adipose tissue, and that tissue which provides the fat. So and that fat is converted into sugar and it is utilized by the body of the frog as the food material whenever it is present in the summer sleep or the winter sleep. You know, summer sleep, winter sleep are the important characteristic feature of these amphibians itself. Like that. So this is also present in the blubbers of the whale. Whale, you know. So in whale, blubbers are present. They are containing much of the fat stored tissue. That is nothing but adipose tissue. And even you know how the humps in case of camels. The camel's hump mainly consisting of this fat itself, right? So these are all food reserves, and this tissue also act as the insulator for heat as well as cold. Insulator, right? This is also one more important thing. And if this tissue is there, so it gives cushion effect to the surrounding the organs itself, right? So this is the major functions of this adipose tissue, right? So this is all about the adipose tissue. By this we finished. One is areolar tissue, second one is adipose tissue in this class. So let us see the other one in the next class. Thank you.